The night had already cast its heavy, suffocating shadow over the old manor as the wind howled through the trees surrounding the crumbling estate. The air was thick, like the very earth had been suffocated by the cold dampness that clung to everything in sight. The manor, abandoned for decades, stood alone in the middle of nowhere, its windows dark, staring out into the empty night like hollow eyes. Liam stood at the gates, the rusted iron scraping against the stone as he pushed it open. His boots crunched over the gravel path leading to the front door. He had arrived earlier that day, hoping to find answers to the mystery that had consumed him for years. He had recently inherited the old mansion, left to him by a distant relative he never knew existed. But something felt wrong. The trees were eerily still, the air too quiet. Every step he took seemed to echo unnaturally. The house loomed ahead, its broken windows like jagged teeth in the darkness. Once inside, the cold hit him like a slap in the face. His breath formed little clouds in the air. He paused for a moment, letting the silence settle in. "Hello?" Liam called out, his voice shaky. The only response was the eerie creak of the wooden floorboards beneath him. He swallowed hard and continued walking deeper into the house. At the end of the long hallway, a grand staircase wound up to the second floor, the railing carved with intricate designs long faded from age. Liam's eyes caught sight of something strange, a large, ornate mirror, its surface cracked and obscured by years of dust. He moved closer, almost as if drawn to it. In the reflection, he saw a shadow, a shape that wasn't his. "Who's there?" he whispered, stepping back quickly. The reflection didn't move, but he could feel it, the oppressive weight of something unseen pressing against him. With a trembling hand, he reached for the light switch beside the door. The room blinked to life, the dim light barely cutting through the darkness. The figure in the mirror was gone. But the air was thick with something cold. A voice echoed softly in the silence. "You've come." Liam froze, turning around, his heart pounding in his chest as he looked into the dim room, eyes scanning every shadow. Who is that?" he whispered, trying to steady his breathing. The voice seemed to surround him, impossibly close. "I am the bride you sought, the one who waits." Liam's blood ran cold as he spun around, his gaze landing on a figure standing at the end of the hall near the staircase. A woman in a tattered wedding dress, her hair hanging loose and dark, her face hidden in the shadows. Her movements were unnatural, jerky, as if her body hadn't moved in decades. The room felt colder, the temperature plummeting to almost unbearable low. What do you want?" Liam stammered, backing away. The woman stepped forward, the tattered dress swaying with every unnatural step. As she got closer, Liam could see her face, a face twisted with sorrow, her eyes empty, hollow. "You made me a promise, long ago," she said, her voice barely more than a rasp. "A promise that you must fulfill." Liam's mind raced, trying to piece together what was happening. He had never seen this woman before in his life, but there was something in her voice, something familiar. I don't know you," he whispered, shaking his head. "What promise?" The woman tilted her head, her eyes narrowing as she took another step forward. "You don't remember?" Her voice held an edge now, a dangerous tone that sent chills down his spine. "It's your fault. You left me here, alone. You left me to die." Liam gasped. The realization hit him like a physical blow. He had heard rumors about the manor, about the tragic story of a bride who had died here long ago. Her groom had vanished the night before their wedding, leaving her alone, her heart broken. But this couldn't be real. "Please, I didn't." I didn't promise you anything, Liam protested, his voice shaking. The woman's lips curled into a twisted smile, her face contorting with an expression of anger. But you did. You promised me. You promised me that you would come back. Her eyes began to glow faintly, the darkness around her deepening as if her every presence was distorting reality itself. You took me from the world of the living. Now you must return what was taken. No, Liam shouted, taking another step back, but the woman didn't stop moving. She was getting closer, too close. You're the one who must fulfill the promise, the one who must marry me, she hissed, her voice becoming sharp, almost screeching. You must take my hand, and in doing so, I will return to the world of the living. The air was thick with an oppressive force, and the ground beneath Liam's feet began to tremble. He turned and bolted for the door, his heart hammering in his chest, but the door wouldn't open. He pulled at the handle, desperation clawing at him, but it was as if the house itself had sealed him inside. No, no, Liam screamed, spinning around. The woman was right behind him now, her cold fingers brushing against his neck. He could feel the weight of her touch, as though death itself was closing in around him. You cannot escape, she whispered in his ear. You are mine now, forever. And just like that, the manor fell silence once more, save for the faintest echo of a wedding bell ringing in the distance. Liam's breath stopped. His heart ceased beating. No one ever saw him again. Years later, the old manor was found again, abandoned and untouched, the walls covered in dust. But inside, something had changed. There, in the center of the decaying house, was a faded portrait. The woman in the wedding dress smiled from the frame, her cold, lifeless eyes staring directly into the viewer's soul. Beside her stood a man, his features twisted in a look of horror. The caption beneath the picture simply read, "Until death do us part." And so, the curse of the bride and her groom continued forever.